Hi there, my name is Matt with State of Flux, here with another one of my Godzilla movie reviews, this time moving on to the first of the legendary trilogy, as of now, MonsterVerse movies, Godzilla 2014. Now, 2014's Godzilla is a movie that I have lots of complicated thoughts about. Complicated only due to the rewatch that I just went through. This is a movie that I was super hyped for. I had heard that director Gareth Edwards was going to come through and give American audiences the Godzilla that they deserved after the bumblefuck that was the 1998 Godzilla. So I was excited, and the way he constantly talked about this and giving it merit and authenticity and really diving deep and examining what makes Godzilla so great, I was really prepping myself for something awesome. And then I saw the first trailer, which is genuinely awesome. And then I saw the movie, and I can't tell you how disappointed I was. I hated the movie. I absolutely hated it. I think walking out of the theater that day, I gave this movie 1.5 stars. But then something strange happened. This week I rewatched the movie, and I realized that I don't hate this movie. That I actually kind of love it. And that just goes to show that expectations and the baggage that that carries really brings a lot to a film. And not only that, it's so important to watch every movie twice. Whether it's a movie you like, you love, or you hate. Expectation can really mold your experience. And some movies are very experiential and are designed that way to be like the first hit, and that's all you really need to see of it. And some movies require a little bit more. And I think this is one of those things that suffers from misadvertising. The biggest problem with this movie is the advertising campaign that led to the movie is very much Walter White versus Godzilla. That is the movie we were promised. And that is not what this movie is at all. At all. This movie is titled Godzilla and features almost no Godzilla. He is very minimally used in this film's runtime. And when he's there, it's more just the suggestion of him. Occasionally we'll get a grand moment, but he doesn't really come into fruition in his full component until the end of the film. This is a film about the Mutos. This is a film about building a MonsterVerse by giving American audiences its own monster, and a compelling one at that. But that wasn't the movie that I went to see. As much as I did eventually find the M.U.T.O interesting, I was there to see Godzilla, and I thought that the movie was going to be more of a remake of the original Godzilla film, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. In all honesty, in my top 10 favorite movies, Godzilla is. And so I wanted that. I wanted the very thoughtful examination of the horrors of like human capability of creating absolute destruction and how that like meshes with nature. And this movie isn't necessarily that. Now it does have elements of that, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But the movie I wanted and the movie that I saw advertised were not what I got. I knew that there was going to be a monster that Godzilla would fight in this movie, and I was on board with that because the Godzilla franchise had evolved beyond the first one to include other monsters. Very rarely, if ever, besides movies titled specifically Godzilla, did Godzilla stand alone. He always had somebody else that he was battling. So, yeah, sure, fine. Give him something to fight. And I was on board with that going in. I didn't realize how much M.U.T.O I was going to get. But more than that, I didn't realize how little Walter White I was going to get. I keep calling him Walter White. That's what they advertised this. It was Bryan Cranston is designed to be the main character, and he is not the main character. I mean, he is until he's not. And, well, that just rubbed me the wrong way, because he was easily the most interesting and compelling character in the film. and then he's expunged from it, and we're following boring soldier guy. These are my initial thoughts. I'm going to move on to my more nuanced, textured thoughts with the rewatch. But these were the sticking points that I had problems with. The only sticking point that I think like holds firm is that the movie is too dark. I've said that when I walked out of the theater. The movie was underlit to its detriment, and the home video release had a lighting issue that was never fixed by the manufacturer until I think the recent 4K re-release, and I could be wrong about that, fact check. But what was already a dark movie is insanely dark on home video release, to the point where in the final battle you can't tell what the hell is happening, nor do you honestly really care at that point. You know, Godzilla's come into his full and he's going to kick the thing's ass. But that's the only sticking point that I think really holds firm. Moving on to the positives of this film. Upon rewatching it, I was excited to see it again, because I have always held firm that you should give a movie, even a bad movie, a second shot. And I was really interested to see how this one would land with me on a second viewing, because I have friends that are diehard fans of this movie, ardent fans that had been urging me for years to watch it again, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And because the key was that they were never able to articulate really what it was about the movie that worked. But I was able to articulate pretty firmly what didn't. And so their arguments didn't compel me. So here, this is my, upon the rewatch, articulating what works with this film. Because I think quite a bit of it does. Upon rewatching it, I was shocked at how much I loved the movie. The first 45 minutes I think is absolute perfection, no notes. 4 stars, awesome. Then they kill the main character, which was a bold choice. It was a shocking choice. But they never took the time to develop Brody's son. I can't remember the son's name. Ford? Is it Ford? I think it's Ford. Ford Brody. They never took the time to develop his character beyond, gotta get home to my family. And like that, while that's okay, it just didn't resonate as well with the first half. But being a father now, I get that sentiment. Like, I don't give two shits about what's going on around me. I need to get home. I made a promise to my kid. And I get that resonated with me far stronger. Elizabeth Olsen is pretty good. She's very underused in this film, but she's very good in a essentially nothing role. But whenever she's on screen, the movie kind of lifts a little bit. But what worked was the development of the Muto, making a really compelling and interesting monster. Sure, the thing looks like it was Mothra had fucked one of the monsters from the aliens from Starship Troopers and like birthed out a Kabutops like Pokemon monster that stood 400 feet tall. He wasn't necessarily very interesting to look at, but it was something new and it was something different, and it was something that the CGI worked. I found it interesting in that they did a lot to make this monster just kind of a creature that's not doing things to be vile or harmful. It's not this monster in no way is like Godzilla being a force of destruction to be a force of destruction. It's doing its life cycle, and our life cycle doesn't agree with that, so it is nature in full taking us down. And upon rewatch, I started connecting to the themes of the film. This is no longer a movie that is about nuclear destruction, the dangers that man presents to the world. I mean, it kind of is in that this is about nature taking itself back. And weirdly enough, the Mutos feed on nuclear energy and stuff like that. So it does have a soft nuclear through line, and it's not lost on me that Soldier Boy takes the front and center, but you never see him fire guns. He's not an active presence like in a traditional rah-rah gung-ho gun 'em up kind of style character. He's just not. And that's where your kind of nature versus this nuclear energy and these two things trying to coexist to catastrophic effect takes hold. And that reading of the movie was a little more interesting for me. It's also not lost on me, again touching on one of, not necessarily, this isn't necessarily a drawback, but it is kind of unusual that there's a lot of similarities between this film and Godzilla 1998. Both start with like the classified document kind of approach to the opening credits that establishes the how Godzilla came to be, or how we first came to know about Godzilla. It then has a monster that is trying to birth its offspring in a downtown square building kind of thing. This is just in San Francisco rather than Madison Square Gardens. That they have to off before it hatches and the more Mutos come out and stuff like that. It's very kind of similar here and there. It worked better. It was repurposed for this in a much better way than in that film. And I have to eat my words. I think in the review for the Godzilla 1998, I said that I like that movie better than this one. I don't. However, I do think that makes for a better monster movie than this one. This is a really good slow burn monster movie in the sense that this takes a man-on-the-ground perspective. Almost everything that is told throughout this movie with regards to the monster fighting is from the perspective of humans looking up at this grand-scale battles between these titans, literal titans, battling it out amidst skyscrapers and buildings and destruction, and we see genuine peril and people die, and that was kind of shocking. And I think that is the unsung glory of this film, is the perspective of that person on the ground looking up in awe at the gods battling in front of them. Whereas Godzilla 1998 is Jurassic Park, but bigger and less effective. But the monster stuff, there's a lot of it. You want Godzilla action, that movie can deliver. You want Godzilla action in this one, he'll take 2 steps towards the camera and it'll cut away to boring British guy that's not British because he's an American in this film. But I keep saying he's boring. That was my old hot take. I think he is a much more interesting character. The problem is he's just not as interesting as his father. Bryan Cranston is amazing in this movie. He is so good. I want to see more of that movie with him. And I think the film could have saved itself if he had died at the end of the movie rather than the mid. It makes for an exceptional shock moment. But the original Godzilla movie killed a main character at the end of their film. And it came as a shock then, too. So, like, why didn't they just transpose that to the end? He could have died in the battle, completely arbitrarily crushed if you wanted him to. But I think that would have bought away from the climax where Godzilla gets to be the superhero. And Godzilla, when he finally does come into the fray at the very end of the movie and we stop seeing him lumber towards the camera, and he comes in and starts battling the Muto and like blows his his atomic breath through the thing's mouth, and then its neck falls away and the body drops. Like, that's great. That is a great kick-ass moment. And that was one of the highlights back when I saw it the first time. It's still a highlight. It's pretty cool. But the frame around this movie with all the human stuff kind of worked more interesting for me. especially in that first 45 minutes. I still liked the guy enough to linger on with it, and there's some great set pieces, them dropping from the sky around Godzilla and the Muto. That scene is absolutely epic, with a capital E. But yeah, this is a movie that I really came around to. I liked it. I liked the drama played better. I did think it was weird that they had a Dr. Serizawa character in this as a nod to the original one, but he is nothing like Dr. Serizawa from the original. So like, why is that a thing other than it's just an Easter egg for us hardcore fans, and that he names Godzilla, name drops Gojira is pretty cool. But that was a criticism that I had that I can't really like harken on to as much anymore because of sequel. So I promise to talk more about Dr. Serizawa in the next movie, but I really liked this movie. The first part of the movie, first 45 minutes, is an easy 4 stars. The remaining hour and 20 minutes is good. It's definitely 3 stars. So I give this one, it's not quite 3.5, but it's like 3.25. It's almost 3.5 stars. I really liked it, and I will come back and rewatch that opening. That opening, especially 5 to 10 minutes, almost got me to roll tears this time around. It's really effective. With Juliette Binoche and whatnot. Holy cats, that is a well-acted scene. That it's tense, it's engrossing. It's just, the rest of the movie doesn't play to the splendor of those first 45 minutes. I keep nailing that, but this is a movie I liked. I'm glad I rewatched it, and it illustrates the importance of rewatching. The movie that I wanted was not what this movie was intended to be, and so once I reconciled with that and saw the movie as it was intended to be by the director, who's a very gifted director. He went on to make Rogue One, which I think is a very good Star Wars movie. If you haven't seen it, check out my review for Rogue One. But he had a vision for this that I really grasped onto this time, and I'm kind of disappointed that he didn't make the sequel, because I would have liked his take on a sequel. That said, with the little amount of monster action, I get how the next one really needed to step up the monster action game. So we will be talking shortly about Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Stay tuned for that review. Let me know what you thought about this movie in the comments down below, and if you haven't seen it in a while, or did not like it and have only seen it once, I encourage you, go back and watch it again. I was blown away. I had to eat my words that I've been espousing for almost 10 years. 9 years, literally, of me complaining about this movie that I've grown to appreciate with only 2 viewings. It's kind of weird. But let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and peace.